What's going on, everybody? This is your host, Joshua Fowler, and today is a special day. And for this special day, I wanted to record a special episode for my co-host, my dad, Pastor Roy E. Fowler. So it's now my dad's 63rd birthday, and I just wanted to take some time out to give him his flowers while he can still smell them. Because you know that we started this podcast together back when I was in Atlanta. We were sitting in a room together, and it was really a special thing to help kind of kickstart my ministry journey, because I was trying to share the word of God through my lens, through my lived experience at my stage of life and my age. It was something very special to sit down with someone that's much, much later in life, and they can look back and share certain perspectives, call me out on certain things that say, just wait till life shows you, while at the same time agree with certain things and say, hey, you're spot on. You have a good understanding of this thing. Unfortunately, or fortunately, God's plan either way, I moved out to Austin, Texas. And since then, we haven't really been able to do the podcast as consistently as we used to. We recorded a few episodes since I moved out about 3 years ago, where when I came back home, I took a large amount of suitcase space to bring microphones and all the podcast equipment. And we recorded 5 or 6 or 7 different episodes, I believe, during that one trip back home. We even tried the StreamYard or Zoom or kind of the virtual podcasting, but it's just not the same as when you're sitting in a room together. Recently, I've began sharing some of the messages and sermons that I've been teaching to the students on the podcast, but it's just not the same as the product of Proverbs that was me and my dad addressing life and the Bible and going through this thing together. So on his birthday, I wanted to use this platform that I started with him to give him his flowers. I can't imagine a better example of literally every verse that I gave in last week's mentorship sermon than my dad. Mentorship just isn't a strong enough word for the type of leadership that my dad has shown to his family, his church congregation, and his community for the 31 years that I've been on this earth. There's a lot of Bible lessons within this episode for anyone who is a father, will be a father, or just wants to know what it's like to be a godly man that leads the people around them. So I hope you all keep listening. But even if not, more than anyone else that would hear this is for you, Dad. You are seen, you are appreciated, and you are celebrated. So let's jump right into it. As always, I'm Bible first, and I have 3 verses that I'm going to use to illustrate how great of a man and a father my dad has been to me throughout my life. The first one is Matthew 5:16, which says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." This is my dad all the way through. He shines his light that doesn't illuminate himself as a man, but he always points it back to God. If you don't know, my dad's been a pastor for the entire time I've been on this earth, and a pastor at the same church at that. Throughout this time, I've seen the perfect example of servant leadership. He isn't in the cut letting people do all the hard work while he preaches his sermons, shakes hands, and kisses babies. He's active both inside his church house and out in the community. My dad has been the leader of an MLK march. He's represented the African American community at city council meetings. He represented the entire workforce as the union shop steward, and he's let his Christian and godly light shine everywhere he goes. I've heard of all the stories of people on the job respecting him as a Christian man, cleaning up their language whenever he's around. I've seen with my own eyes when people hide their bottles and put out their smoke whenever he or anyone in the family comes around. I've seen the respect that he's had from every teacher, principal, baseball and basketball coach throughout my entire life. It's not he's cursing and raising his voice. It's a quiet confidence and a godly demeanor. And this has been the example of him letting his light shine everywhere he goes. He doesn't try to dim it to fit in. He doesn't try to take credit for being a good leader. He points everything he has, everything he is, everything he's done, everything he's involved in, right back to God. Pure servant leadership. Never taking credit for anything, never wanting a spotlight, an award, or any human recognition. He's lived out that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. There's something we can all learn from and strive to be like. He's a living embodiment of letting a light shine and good deeds that glorify the Father. No ego, no self-praise, no wanting to be recognized, because he knows where his reward is. And that's something I've learned myself. I don't seek the approval of others, following in my dad's example. The next verse is Titus 2:7-8. It says, "In everything, set them an example by doing what is good. In your teaching, show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed because they have nothing bad to say about us." There are a lot of people that say, "Do as I say, not as I do." My dad isn't one of them. He has set an example with a level of intention that aligns perfectly with this verse. It's actually kind of eye-opening as I read this, because I realize this is likely the intentional core of his public demeanor. In your teaching, show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned. I say this because anyone that knows my dad in person knows him to be an objectively serious person. Like, sometimes it feels way too serious, to be honest. He chooses his words carefully. He never wavers in his position. He always calls a spade and stands on business for what he knows to be right. You often don't catch him laughing and kikiing around with a whole bunch of people. He's handling business when he's out in public. And I realize in the second part of the verse, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed because they have literally nothing to say about us. I don't know if my dad has one single op. Like, I've never heard of any drama or gossip or problems or any beef that he's ever had with anyone. And as I read the verse, I can see why. I feel like if you don't like my dad, you're probably just a hater. And if you're somewhere talking bad about him, you're likely making it up. And you probably sound very silly when you do it, because his track record is so consistent that whoever you're gossiping or trying to stir up something with would know that you're lying. It's like the perfect example how to live and conduct yourself in a righteous way. One that I can say I haven't always lived up to, but I can say that most recently in my life, this is more than true about how I've been carrying myself and how I plan to carry myself throughout the rest of my life, following my dad's example with integrity, seriousness, and a soundness of speech. It's funny because I don't know the exact proverb, but it talks about how fools like to speak. They like to hear themselves talk. Less is more. You say what you need to say and nothing else. If you keep talking in circles, you probably aren't saying much. And my dad always says, like, I don't mind people talking, just be saying something. And if you don't have anything to say, then shut up. And funny enough, I see it now. And not to break the fourth wall or whatever that saying is, but Elroy is a goofy goober in private. He's one of the most funniest, unserious, loving, laughing, and just fun person to be around at the house. All that seriousness goes out the window when he's with his family. And I've always thought, wow, why can't everyone see this side of him? But after reading this passage, I kind of understand why he moves the way he does. As a leader of his church, his community, a pastor, and a man of the cloth, he has a duty to uphold, and he does it well. So for now, I guess Leroy at the crib will have to be just that, at the crib. We'll get Leroy and Elroy, and y'all will continue to get Roy Fowler in public. And that's more than okay, because he's following God's word as he does it. The final verse is 1 Timothy 5:8. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. The provider aspect of my dad is something that I will never underestimate or underappreciate. Almost every week I jokingly tell him, you must have been selling crack, because there just ain't no way. Talking from the perspective of a 31-year-old single man that's doing fairly okay in life, but still looking at certain things financially just for myself, and then taking it and saying, wow, imagine a stay-at-home wife and 3 kids. And imagine sustaining that over the last 25 years. I don't know if it's a budgeting issue, which it probably is more than likely, because I'm a little more frivolous, and now him being cheap makes so much sense. And we say cheap, he's not cheap. He just doesn't spend a lot of money on unnecessary things for himself. We've never wanted for anything. Family room full of Christmas presents under the tree and sprawling out into the room. birthday presents, lunch money, back to school clothes, shoes. Every one of his kids got a sports car when they got their driver's license. He raised a family, and it's ridiculously impressive because when you think about it, he raised a family of 5, owned a home, kept 2 cars in the driveway, and paid for 3 kids in baseball and basketball year round. Where many people struggle to do just 1 or 2 of these things, he's done all of this. And let's double click into how he did all this. This might be the spot where the conversation goes off the rails just a little bit, and I have to ask y'all to forgive me. I always joke, and it's a half joke, that I don't really believe in mental health. And I laugh at people that talk about anxiety or burnout. And it's for a very logical reason, because I've seen how Roy Fowler works. Let me just walk y'all through a day in the life of Roy Fowler. Let's paint a picture real quick. 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up, head to work. 5 o'clock, clock in at work. 4 p.m., get off work. 5 p.m., get home, watch Dragon Ball Z with your kids. 5:30 p.m., eat dinner. 6 p.m., baseball practice or Bible study or revival or choir practice. 8:30 p.m., get home. 9 p.m., watch TV or play ping pong or play pool with your kids. Or go in your office and put together another message, another Bible study. 11 p.m., go to bed. 4 a.m., wake up and head to work to do it all over again. This is Monday through Friday most weeks for my dad for at least the last 31 years that I can remember. This isn't the various Christian group meetings, community event meetings, union meetings, church meetings, and family events sprinkled in. Let's not underestimate the time spent at the baseball and basketball games when it's not just practice, or the times in the hospital when someone gets sick, or funerals, or weddings. We're not even talking about Sundays spent at a Sunday service, or a second service, or traveling to other churches sometimes 1.5 hours away, one way. 40 plus years at his job, 30 plus years at the church, and y'all talking about burnout from a little hybrid work from home job with no kids. Nah, I can't go for that. My dad did all this work and set the perfect example while raising 3 boys that are all productive members of society in their professional careers. My dad also enabled my mom to follow her dreams, owning multiple businesses throughout my 31 years of life while staying at home to raise the kids. Showing the greatest example, he loves his wife, he takes care of his wife, he takes care of his responsibilities. He's provided for his family members in his household and relatives his whole life. We don't even need to double click into his time as a young adult with his younger siblings. You talk about an example, I honestly can't find a better one. You talk about an excuse, I honestly haven't heard a single one from him my whole life. And I know I said 3 verses, but I have one bonus verse that's specifically from me to my dad. So if you know me, you know I have a bunch of tattoos. But one of my first ones was the verse Proverbs 1:8, which is a core reason for this entire Product of Proverbs podcast thing as a whole. Proverbs 1:8, listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Dad, I've been listening. More than listening, I've been watching. There's a reason why I am who I am today, a reason much more impactful than any mentor I listed in my last message. There's a reason I'm a productive professional that takes my career seriously. There's a reason I'm a consistent church member that takes my service seriously. There's a reason I'm a potential preacher that takes my faith seriously. That reason is you. You told me do as I do, not as I say. Even if I did what you said, it always aligns with what you do, and action is more powerful than words. Dad, I love you, and I thank you for being the example to me and everyone you've ever impacted throughout your 63 years on this earth. Nipsey Hussle said, I'm prolific, so gifted. I'm the type that's gonna go get it, no kidding. And you're the living embodiment of the marathon. From mechanic school to Bible college, from Lockheed to Damascus, from Ackworth to Austin, you are prolific. Luke 6:43 says, for a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. A good man out of the good treasures of his heart brings forth good. You have been a good tree and produced a lot of good fruit in this earth. You know your reward is in heaven, but I want to give you the acknowledgement today. You are seen, you are appreciated, you are celebrated. Happy birthday, Dad. Love, your firstborn son, Joshua Fowler.